kind of discuss.
All right, so welcome back here to the ESEA Season 14 LAN Finals right here in Dallas, Texas. I just wanted to kind of take a moment here and kind of just talk with you just in general about everything that's happened here, especially the time frame that you spent over there at the Valve headquarters. How long did you actually get to spend up there in Seattle?
We were there for 3 days, kind of. The first day we pretty much came in late, so we just had a nice dinner with them and talked about the new update that's coming up, things that we want to change, just small talk pretty much. And there was 2 serious days. We'd talk about changes that we want, what people want, the community, and what they are think about that at the ES and so on. So we were just there to trying to improve the game in those ways that we think is needed.
What were some of the different types of improvements that did you talk with them about? Some of the high-level ones.
We're talking about the movement.
You talk about the movement, but in what terminology? I know that talking with the Valve developers that it's very difficult to just say we need to fix the movement.
Yeah.
What did you say? What type of things do they need to do?
I cannot really go into details because that was not one of my concerns into the game.
Okay.
Because many people know that I don't have any concern with the movement.
Yeah.
Of course, it's always needed to improve, and I'm gonna accept that I want some improvements, but it's not affecting me in a big area, in a big picture
Right.
like it is right now. But it was pretty much all the talks that we were doing was about like how Glock is overpowered, the movement is, the Desert Eagle is, what they are thinking about it, what they are thinking, is it good enough, is it a bad problem,
Right.
or is it even a problem? And then we were saying, we were always coming with like information why we wanted to change them, for example.
Right.
And we can take movement, for example, and we were just saying that we're missing the old days when you could actually strafe up in the air and just take a snap peek.
Right.
And trying to get it back into that moment.
Yep.
And I don't exactly remember what they were answering on that, but they was actually positive to that.
Yeah.
But they wanted to find us our own values, as we were actually discussing about the values that people are posting up. But we actually found another way that we think it was much better and actually could make the game actually faster than those
Right.
values was giving out, because the movement speed for that values they were giving, I actually think it was making the game slower. But I don't think the game should be that low as it was with that values. So we were aiming towards getting something that makes us faster and at the same time make it though that can strafe out, make us those things that you could do before.
So I know that in the past, when the game first came out, we did a lot of comparison to the difference between our versions of the game, whatever community you were a part of. Whenever this Counter-Strike community was divided, you know, we did a lot of comparisons to 1.6 to Go. We did a lot of comparisons from Source to Go. Are we doing that still? I mean, I know the community can always continue to sit there and say, "Well, it's not like it was in 1.6, not like it was in Source." Are we establishing something new? We're saying these tweaks need to be made because it's better for the game, opposed to saying it's similar to another.
Of course, we can only compare to those games we've been playing. So of course, it's always going to be like we want to be similar to what
Right.
it was, but we're trying to make it something new instead of what it's been before. As we're 5 players, 2 from Source, 3 from 1.6.
Yep.
So we're always having different minds on things that was in their own games. So we're always trying to aim for that goals that hasn't even been in the game.
Right, and I think that's the big component.
Yeah, and that's why when we had a meeting with them, and we always come up with something new instead of like, we want the silencer, and that's it. So, for example, in the blog entrance I did and Niklas was posting on the website, it was from everyone in the team. It was not only from one person. It was just a summary of what we were learning and what
Right.
we wanted and so on, and what we actually got from the meeting. And it's really hard to actually write in the words because everyone's not invited as we were, because then we could hear the answers on why the change was
Right.
like that and so on. But I think that the silent was a really good add to the game because that's a game changer.
It is a game changer. We've
And
definitely seen that come into play here.
Yeah, and I think that the community needs that in a way, because that can make the game exist for a longer time instead of being the same thing that over and over again.
Yep.
And we were lucky to having 1.6 for having in the big picture on the big room for a long time, as there wasn't really any game that could replace it except Source if you can take another mode.
I think that
version.
Valve did a really good explanation of it, or Gabe Newell said it was more of like an amoeba factor. So it developed its own
Yeah.
entity of it. So it wasn't really a division. for 1.6, but it just kind of grew up this own community of it. And so we never really have truly been separated. We've been separate, but never separated.
Yeah.
And so just kind of watching that. So let's kind of go back to, you mentioned some of the different things that you said it would be an improvement.
Yeah.
Don't want to say that there's things that they did wrong or what they'd be doing different, but so the Glock, I know that it's been mentioned throughout the community. I think it's an overpowered weapon in comparison to other pistols. What was the team's overall response to it? How could those be changed, and what kind of impact they can make?
Well, we came up with ideas saying like we want to lower the damage. We want it to stay exactly the same, but just lower the damage pretty much, because Glock has always been a gun that you can run and shoot people with. That's why it was always having lower damage, because then you're needed to jump around and you need to run around to get a kill actually, and that's what's pretty much the beauty of it in 1.6. I don't know. I cannot really answer what it was in Source, but that was I could get from my guys.
It's very similar in the two.
Yeah, but I don't have the experience. I cannot express in that way.
Yep.
So they were really interesting in that they were actually agreeing on it was kind of overpowered, because when they're looking at our guns, for example, and we can just take it, all the pistols in considering in the whole box.
Right.
They want to be that every gun is used. It's not that they want that it's only going to be USB or Glock. So they want to mix it up. That's why there's dual was really good in the beginning, and people was using a lot more before.
Yep.
It is still really good, but then PT50 came with buff and it's lower cost, so people prefer that because it's so cheap.
Yep.
And then people came up with they can play Deagle before, because everyone remember how good the Deagle was before, and it's like a legendary gun that everyone's, when they played CS one time ago, they remember how good it was and they want to play it again. So they wanted to make it not bad, but they wanted to make it really hard to master, like that you're really good with it instead of like running around and one bullet people. So I think that was actually a great update. I mean, I'm not the Desert Eagle guy, so I can understand when people
even though you
angry.
wanted to use my Desert Eagle.
Yeah, that's another thing. That we can come into that later.
We'll get into that. I think that we can kind of wrap this up here for now, but we will come back and we'll continue our discussion. We'll continue with the matchup that's going on. So Dust, hold